Hello, and welcome to a demonstration of ViPR's advanced provisioning and protection capabilities, specifically utilizing RecoverPoint's multi-site feature. As of ViPR 2.0, a customer can leverage RecoverPoint's multi-site configurations to automatically protect their volumes to multiple data centers. To show this feature, we put together a model of 3 data centers. RecoverPoint can protect the middle data center, Boston, with VNX storage, to 2 remote data centers, New York and Syracuse, both which have VMAX storage. Our desire is not only to automate the creation of the source volume, but also to protect that volume in New York, Syracuse, and for good measure, we'll also use local replication to protect that volume right here in Boston. ViPR will automate the volume creations, zoning and masking those volumes to the respective RecoverPoint appliances, as well as manage the RecoverPoint clusters to create and initialize the consistency groups. We'll show element managers along the way to describe the process, but first, let's configure ViPR to enable it to provide this level of protection. To start things off, we log in as the EMC World user. This is an administrative account that I had set up on my ViPR. Now this is the account that I use to register all of my storage systems, all of my managed resources like RecoverPoint clusters and SAN switches. So we're going to switch over to administrative mode and take a look at some of those physical assets that ViPR has under its management. First thing we'll take a look at is the storage systems. Since we have 3 data centers, it makes sense that we would have 3 storage systems to back those 3 data centers. The VNX at the top is going to be our source. That's a VNX 0018. And then we have 1 VMAX on each of the remote systems. They're one of the remote data centers, New York and Boston. 1351 is in Syracuse and 406 is in New York. And as you can see here, we already have RecoverPoint identified as a protection technology that can be used. And this is a look at our data protection system that we have registered. Nothing interesting there. You just give it an IP address and a username and password. We can take a look at the RecoverPoint configuration in Unisphere. That's certainly much more interesting. You'll see that we've got 3 sites. It matches our slide from the beginning of the demonstration where Boston is in the middle and New York and Syracuse are remote replication sites. We have 3 virtual arrays that correspond to our 3 data centers, so that makes sense as well. But we don't have any block virtual pools yet, and part of this exercise here in this demonstration is to set up those block virtual pools. The first pool that we're going to set up here is the New York protection pool. It's the pool that we're going to define as the pool that we provision storage out of for the purpose of target volumes in the New York data center. Now, I'm not setting any special options in here. I'm letting any volume that can be seen, any storage pool that can be seen in New York, qualify as target storage for RecoverPoint. It just keeps things easy. But of course, if I wanted a specific set of attributes associated with that target storage, I can open up all these submenus and select anything that I needed. I'm going to perform the same operation for Syracuse. We're going to identify that any volume that's provisioned out of this virtual pool is taken out of the storage pools that are seen by the Syracuse data center. And now that we've defined that, we can create a block virtual pool. That's the pool that would be exposed to the customer for the purpose of creating RecoverPoint protected volumes from Boston. So we'll call it block with protection. I'll give it a very verbose description since this is the one that our users are going to actually use. We take a look at the protection tab, and under there we select RecoverPoint. And RecoverPoint now, the RecoverPoint feature in ViPR now gives us the capability of selecting many copies, depending on how many sites you have in your RecoverPoint configuration. So in this case, we're creating multiple copies. We're creating 1 copy for New York, we're creating 1 copy for Syracuse, and we're also going to create 1 copy just for ourselves in Boston. So anytime somebody creates a volume from this virtual pool, they'll automatically get RecoverPoint protection to all 3 sites. So let's show that here. We'll bounce around in the element managers and take a look at how this is done in the background. So I have an Oracle server. I'm going to create an Oracle database volume for that server. So I select the Oracle server I'm going to use. The source virtual array is our Boston data center, and we're going to use that new virtual pool that we just created. The project was predefined as the finance department. They need an Oracle database volume of size 50 gigabytes on their Oracle server. and we fire off that order. Now, in order to produce a source volume with 3 protected volumes and all their corresponding journals, there's a lot of things that need to happen in the background. So we'll take a look at some of the element managers to see the volumes that were created, and we'll even take a look at the RecoverPoint UI as it's creating the consistency group itself. All right, we'll let that job continue to run. Let's take a look at the source VNX first. We'll go into its element manager, we'll take a look in Unisphere and look at the volume list and look at any volumes that have the name Oracle DB in them. At this point in the process, the LUNs had already been created on the source, so we should see them in our element manager. We just filter on Oracle DB. And there we are. We have 4 devices. Now we have 4 devices because we have a source device and a target device. Remember, we asked for local replication, and we have journal volumes associated with both. And you can see that they were masked to their respective hosts or the RecoverPoint cluster itself. And now we're far enough along in the process that we can take a look at our New York VMAX and take a look at his volumes and see what his automatically provisioned volumes look like. And we'll match these volumes up to the RecoverPoint UI's representation of those volumes in a few moments. Now I have the advantage of seeing the device IDs as they come across on my ViPR log that's on my other screen. So to prevent us from having to scroll down 1,000 volumes, I'm just going to enter in the volume ID. And here is the volume that was created. Now there's also a journal volume associated with that, so I'll bring up the filter and put in the ID for the journal volume. And we'll take a look at the details of that volume. Now Unisphere in this case, as you can see, it cuts off the name, so we'll just double click on it. The name is there, you just have to bring up the details to see it. So here you can see exactly which volume it corresponds to. And then finally we'll take a look at the Syracuse VMAX. And same deal, I have the benefit of having the device IDs. Fortunately this time I have a range of device IDs, so I don't have to run 2 separate filters. You just put in the low number and put in the high number. And I should get both of my volumes in one query. And same thing, you can double click on any of the volumes to get the full name. That's about enough proof as we're going to get out of Unisphere that ViPR automatically provisioned the volumes. Job's still running. We'll take a look at the RecoverPoint UI, at the consistency groups. Oh, it's already being created. Okay, I'm a little late to the game. I apologize for that. It looks like it had just created the consistency group and the copies. That's why they had little red circles through them. And they're being initialized right now. So as you can see in the middle, the yellow is the source copy. To the lower left is the local copy, and the 2 remote copies off to the sides. And if we look at the replication set, because it is a single volume CG in this case, ViPR will give you the capability of adding additional volumes to the same RecoverPoint consistency group in 2.0. We can take a look at the volumes as RecoverPoint sees it, and they will match what we saw in Unisphere for the same array IDs and device IDs. Also, we can take a look at the journal volumes specifically. I'm not going to go through every copy, but just to show the original production, the source volume has journals associated with it. The Syracuse has a journal associated with it, and that has a specific LUN ID that we saw when we went through the Unisphere UIs for the respective storage systems. And we'll let that run. I'm doing a little time jump here because it is a large volume that's being synced. That's complete. and then as we come back to ViPR, ViPR is just finishing up some final touches on the volume creation after orchestrating the provisioning, zoning, masking, and creation of the RecoverPoint consistency group. And we also need to zone and mask the source volume to the Oracle server, and we're performing that right now. Okay, the process is complete. So with one easy service catalog entry, we were able to submit an order that gave us a source volume with 3 protection volumes using RecoverPoint technology. Thanks a lot for joining us for this demo, and have a great day.